Welcome. My name is Florence Achama-Ukpabi. I am a faith, belief and mindset coach for women of faith. And what that basically means is I help women of faith overcome subconscious blocks and negative beliefs that are holding them back and really stopping them from living a life of abundance and victory. And today what I want to do is talk about fighting your normal. A few days ago, I shared a post that you can see if you scroll down my feed about fighting your normal. And I said that I wanted to come back and do a training on it. So that's why I'm here today, to do a training on what it means to fight your normal and how you can fight your normal. But first of all, I want to share why I am doing this, because there is a reason why I'm on here today, and I haven't been on Facebook for a while. And the reason is because at the end of July, I was told that I had a breast lump. And I think that's probably one of the most scariest things that you can hear as a woman after being told that you can't conceive, you can't have a child. And I think those two pieces of news can really rock your world. And that's what happened with me when I was told that I had a breast lump, and it took 5 weeks for me to find out the news, whether it was a cancerous lump or not. So that was 5 weeks of really living with uncertainty and living with agony, actually. And it gave me opportunity to think. And I can definitely say that I felt all the feels that you might feel when you're in that situation. My emotions were everywhere. My thoughts were everywhere. I was up and down a lot. And as somebody who teaches a lot about faith and mindset, it just seemed like I was placed in this situation where I needed to draw on everything that I had learned, everything that I teach my clients, everything that I share about, and really use it in a practical way. And thanks be to God, it came in handy, and I was able to really stand in that place of uncertainty, even to the extent where I got to a place where I was like, if it's the worst case scenario and it's a cancerous lump, then God still has a plan for me. God is still good. There is still something to gain out of this experience. And that was a very hard place to get to, because I had my dreams. I have my dreams. I had my goals. I had things that I wanted to experience, things that I wanted to accomplish, things deep inside of my heart that were still beckoning to me to do and achieve. And so that was a very difficult time, but it gave me an opportunity to think about my life up until then, and whether I had been using the best of my time, the most of my time. And yes, I could say that I had done things, but deep inside I knew that I had allowed fears and negative beliefs and fears to keep me stuck, to keep me doing so much less than what I knew I was capable of doing. And I realized also that one of the issues was that I had been living my life based on other people's truth. And I have definitely come a long way in relation to that. But it was an awareness that there was still work to be done. And if I only had a short period of time to live life, then I needed, as they say, to live my life like there was no tomorrow. And that meant really facing some of those fears and blocks and beliefs that had been holding me back. But thanks be to God, the 5 weeks of waiting went by and I received the news that everything was fine, that everything was clear. But it didn't change the fact that I had gone through that experience, that I had been in a crisis of faith, that I had learnt to rebuild my faith in that uncertainty, and that I had an awakening around where I was, where I wanted to be, and what was holding me back. And so the posts that I've been sharing, I guess, in the last few weeks are evidence of where I am right now. And if you follow my blog, then you also see that in my blog, because I've shared a lot about my experiences and what I've learned from those experiences. So, as I said, today I just want to talk about fighting your normal, because that is something that absolutely keeps us stuck where we are, fighting what is normal for us. And I've been in some situations this year and in the last couple of years that have taught me the importance of fighting your normal. I mean, this situation was bad, but I've also been in other situations that have tested me, and I've had to rise above what is normal for me. I've had to rise above what is comfortable for me and push against my boundaries. And one of those things is that in April of this year, I left a women's refuge. And I had been in the refuge for around 16 months. And the reason I was in there was a choice that I had made to not be in an environment that was not being in an abusive environment that was sucking the life out of me, and that was basically trying to destroy me and quench the light inside of me, stop me from really being who I was. And I'm not going to go into detail because that's not the point of this training. Why I bring this up is a couple of reasons. Firstly, I had come out of one place that was normal, that I had been living in for such a long period of time, and that took a lot to do. And then I was entering into another environment where I was surrounded by women who were at their most vulnerable, who had experienced so many horrendous things happening to them, who were used to responding to life in a particular way, used to thinking in a particular way. And I knew that I could easily get drawn into that because of my own personal experiences. But something inside of me said no, that I didn't want to go back to my old normal, but neither did I want to make this new state my normal. I wanted so much more from my life. I'd been given another chance and I wanted to do this better. I wanted so much more for myself. So I knew that I had to fight. I had to fight. And I did that in so many ways. And one of the ways was I faced a really big fear for myself. I had stopped working permanently in around 2010 because of traumatic experiences at work, which resulted in me developing an autoimmune condition. And when I say it was traumatic, it really was. Just even the thought of going back into that environment was enough to trigger me. And so I started temping and I started coaching, and that was okay for me. That was enough for me. But I realized that in order for me to take my life to the next level, I had to face that fear. I had to fight what had become normal for me and face that fear. So I started applying for work. I knew that I didn't want to go back into the same sector that I was in. I wanted to start again, do something new. So I went down the mental health route and I applied for jobs within mental health. And by God's grace, I managed to secure a job in a very competitive environment where there were over 250 applicants for that role. So that was one victory I had when I decided to fight my normal. The second victory I had, again, about facing a fear, was that I ran an online summit from the refuge. Now that sounds really crazy, but it's true. It's what I did. Using a broken down shared laptop, I hosted a summit with 20 other Christian women and with over 100 registrants and attendees, because I believed that I had something to share. I believed that I had a message. I believed that I had work to do, and I wanted to support the message and work of other women that I believed in. I took some time to heal as well. I started singing at church. I made new friends. I started new hobbies until I felt that I was ready to start dating again. And even when I made that decision, I was very, very clear about what I wanted and what I didn't want. And again, by God's grace, He brought somebody into my life who treats me as I want to be treated, who thinks I'm special, who makes me feel safe, and basically treats me like a queen. And we're just about to celebrate our 1 year anniversary. There are so many other things that happened during that time, but I share this just to show that no matter what situation you find yourself in, you have the opportunity and the power to fight what has been your normal and to choose what becomes your new normal. So as I said, in April, I moved out of the refuge and I secured my own place to live, which is where I'm delivering this from. And none of those things came easily to me. As I said, I had to fight, I had to battle. So why is it important to fight? Well, as I said, people say, you need to push your boundaries and get out of your comfort zone. But they often downplay the struggle or the fight involved. And I've discovered two things: that the people who remain the same, the people who have an internal yearning for more but remain the same, are the people who do not know two things. They do not know that life requires you to fight, to struggle for what you want. We've got so many analogies of this in the world, so many examples. We've got the example of a woman giving birth, that struggle that she goes through, the birthing pains that she goes through to give birth to something new, to bring forth her fruit into the world. It's the same for us. In order to bring forth our fruit into the world, we also need to struggle. We also need to go through pain to get there. And people who are not aware of this, they often, because of the lack of awareness, they often do not fight. Or the other example is people who feel that life should come easily. Having what you want should come easily. It should come to you, and that you don't have to put in any work at all, that there is nothing that you need to do on your side. And both of those things are wrong. It's like that saying, survival of the fittest. And yes, I know it's an evolutionary term, it's a Darwinian perspective, but there is truth there. The Bible says this in other ways. It talks about running the good race. In order to run any length of race, you need to be fit. You need to have trained. You need to be able to have stamina and persevere. Perseverance is another word that the Bible uses. It also talks about striving to enter into rest. That's not an easy peasy, go lightly word. To strive is something that takes perseverance and discipline. It talks about wrestling, overcoming. None of these words are passive. They're not things that just happen to us and we go along for the ride. These are examples of us being active, and I would say being even more than active, being proactive, especially when we look at the examples of putting on the full armor of God. When we think about the difference between being active and proactive, active is about doing something, yes, and we are called to do something, but to be proactive is to be prepared for action. And when we are asked to put on the full armor of God, we are called to be prepared for something, to be prepared for action. And that brings me to the next point. So we are called to fight, but what is it that we are fighting? And I think that we are fighting four things. The first is our own false complacency. So when I talk about false complacency, I'm talking about the belief that we hold that our current state is okay, that our current normal is acceptable. And this is even more painful when deep down inside you know that there is so much more out there for you. When you feel that you can do more, be more, have more, but you are kind of convincing yourself that actually the way everything is right now is fine for you when it's not. You need to fight that false complacency that you have, because that will definitely keep you stuck. As soon as you come into agreement with your current norm, then that will keep you stuck. And I found that even when people have a wake-up call and they say, okay, no, enough is enough, I cannot do this anymore, some people still remain stuck. And this is where the second area of fighting comes in. We need to fight our own physiology and our body. And what I mean by that is that every thought that we have, every belief that we have results in a change. It results in us behaving in a particular way, or it responds in us, in our body responding in a particular way. For example, it could be that we decide to eat particular foods because we have a particular thought, or we decide to take another form of action. Everything that we think and believe has a knock-on effect on us. It becomes normal for us to feel a particular way. Ask anybody who suffers with depression. They will know that it's hard for them to simply get up and fight their body and fight their physiology. But fighting ourselves in that regard is what we need to do. We need to fight our thinking. We need to fight our biochemistry. We need to fight our weight. We need to fight our lungs. We need to fight our hearts and our habits. Everything that up until now that has been normal for us inside of us, we need to fight that. If we can't exert ourselves and say, actually, no, I'm not willing to allow my physical state, how I feel, whether I feel tired or not, to determine my actions, then we will remain exactly as we are. So the first was fighting our beliefs that being as we are is okay, but also fighting what has become normal for us in our body. The state that has become normal for us is so important. The third thing that we have to fight is our environment. And this is really interesting one, actually, because the environment that we live in is an ecosystem. Everything works in harmony with each other to create an equilibrium, to create a balance. But once we decide to change, it has a ripple effect on the entire ecosystem that we are a part of. And the ecosystem doesn't like that. It doesn't want to change because everything is just so the way it is. So it's going to exert pressure against us to make us go back to how we were before. Because it's so much easier for us to go back to how we were before than for the environment to change and adapt around us. And unless we are willing to stand our ground and fight, then the environment wins out over us. So going back to this idea of survival of the fittest, you can see that we need to fight. We need to be fit to fight in so many different ways. And the last way that we need to fight is spiritual attacks. I firmly believe that the more you have an anointing and calling on your life, the more you will experience the hands of the enemy and devices of the enemy trying to hold you back. Because he knows that as soon as you get your deliverance, your victory, as soon as you overcome, as soon as you stand in your own power and authority, that there is going to be, excuse the pun, hell to pay. So there's going to be all kinds of attacks on you. And Ephesians 6:12 says it well. It says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this world's darkness, and against the spiritual forces of evil in heavenly realms." So we have to know that in order to fight, in order to leave what is old behind, leave the things that are not serving us behind, we need to be able to fight. And the purpose of fighting is obvious. I think it's obvious. The purpose of fighting is to remain standing at the end of the battle. You want to remain standing. You want to overcome and be victorious. And again, drawing from Ephesians 6 and verse 13, it says, therefore take up the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you will be able to stand your ground, and having done everything, to stand. And when I spoke about being proactive, this is it. This is what being proactive is about. We are putting on our full armor ahead of that evil day so that we can stand. It's not about reacting to things when it happens to us. It's not even about just being active. It is about being proactive. It's about knowing that there will be a day where you will have to fight, and preparing yourself for the battle ahead of time so that you can stand and be victorious at the end. And when I talk about standing, I'm really talking about you as a person standing with greater self-assurance, greater confidence of your own capabilities, of your own strength and resources, having faith in God and faith in yourself, knowing who you are in God and knowing who He is in you. And I firmly believe that one of the reasons why we fall, why we do not stand, why we do not enter into the battle and fight, is because of a lack of self-belief and a lack of self-knowing. And you may not realize it, I don't know whether you do, but this is created by the system that we have been born into. From the moment we can remember, the world around us has tried to make us fit into it. It has tried to make us conform to its pattern of what is normal, what is acceptable, what is good, what is right, what is proper. And as a result of that, our own uniqueness has been stamped out along the way. We've forgotten what it means for us to believe in who we are and to stand tall and proud in who we are, so that we can shine our inner light and fight for what we deserve, because we do deserve it. We're here on this earth for a reason, and that means that we deserve to shine. We deserve to express ourselves, to express the fullest version of ourselves on earth. And one of the things that often strikes me is that when we're not in that place of knowing who we are, we go into a place of comparison. And you've probably heard the word comparisonitis. And I just want you to think about that for a moment. The only reason why I feel that we compare is when we don't know that we are unique. Because what comparison says is basically, I need to measure myself against you or another person to make me feel good about myself. I need to, at the very least, be on the same level as you on some criteria in order for me to feel good about myself. But as soon as you know that you are unique and that every other soul is unique, there's no space for comparison. We all have a duty, a right, an obligation, and a purpose to shine as bright as we can. So if I was to ask you, who are you really? Can the real you please stand up? Who would arise? Would it be society's version of you, or a version of you that's trying to express the fullest your fullest light, your uniqueness as much as you possibly can. We often don't think of ourselves as being sleepwalkers, but actually when you think about it, that's kind of what's happened to us as we've gone through life. We're wide awake, yet still asleep. And I think Romans 13:11 says this well. It says this, and do this knowing the time, that it is already the hour for you to awaken out of sleep. For our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. So as I said, we can be physically awake, yet spiritually and in our soul, we are asleep. We do not have to wait for a crisis moment to wake us up. Our salvation has already come. And we know that because that's the purpose of why Christ came to earth and he died for us, to give us salvation and to give us fullness of life. We don't have to wait to experience that. We can wake up and experience that now. So how do we fight? It really boils down to one thing: making a decision. Just like accepting Christ is a decision that we make, a heart decision that we make. Fighting to live abundantly, fighting to step out of what has been normal for you is also a decision. We make decisions every day. Even not choosing is a decision. But our choices determine the life that we live. And our choices are within our control. Nobody can take that away from us, the power of choice. We can choose to say to ourselves right now, I'm going to go out and start running, or I'm going to give up sugar, or I'm going to get a new job, or whatever it is. You have the power to make that choice right now. And once you make that choice, take action on it. Faith, a choice, without works, action is dead. It doesn't produce anything. But I know you might be saying to me, well, maybe you know all this, or you agree with me in what I'm saying, but the struggle is real. Obviously it's real, because that's why I've used the word fight, fighting our normal. And the biggest thing that stops us from doing that is fear. Fear is a liar. Yes, it is. It's a liar. I remember one of my coach friends, she would say to me, fear is a thought. And I'd be like, how can fear be a thought? And the truth was that I didn't understand what she was saying. But there is a big difference between feeling fear or feeling afraid and being afraid. We all feel fear. It's a natural physiological response to being in danger. It's the fear response, but being afraid is different. Being afraid is a choice that we make to remain in fear because on some level we believe that it serves us to remain in fear. Once you make the decision within yourself and say, actually, this fear isn't serving me, it's stopping me, then you are on the pathway to fighting what is normal for you. And obviously, this is not something that happens overnight. Just like running the good race or striving to enter into rest, it takes perseverance, consistency, practice, whatever word you want to call it. But it does take you to, it does mean that you have to take action. And it does mean that you have to be proactive. Our subconscious mind, bless it, wants to protect us. It wants to keep us safe. It knows that what you have been doing up until now works for you because you're still here. You're still breathing. You're still going about your daily life. It knows it works. It's got all the years of evidence to go by. It doesn't know that what you want will work for you. That's risky. That's uncharted territory. But we are not meant to be ruled by our subconscious mind or ruled by the fears or limiting beliefs that are housed there. We are meant to really be, I don't even know the right words to use, but we are meant to overcome. And that means also learning to break through those beliefs, those fears, those strongholds, those thoughts and habits that are keeping us stuck. And that's why I have put together a 4-week program. It's a brand new program. And it's really about helping you to learn how to fight your normal and go deeper into some of the elements that I've spoken about today. Now, I'm going to put some more information about this program in this post for you to find out more about it. But I'll just let you know some of the things that we'll be looking at. So we'll be exploring how to deal with key fears and beliefs that are keeping you stuck, understanding how your subconscious mind works and how to get it on your side, how to create transformation in your life through action, how to keep standing even when external forces and your environment are trying to push you back, and how to discover your inner strength and uniqueness. Now, I only want to run this course with a few select women who are really serious about breaking through their normal and creating the life that they truly want. Because there is so much that can be done in 4 weeks with the people who really want to make that transformation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up dedicated slots in my calendar to talk to each person who wants to find out more about this program individually. And I'll put a link to my calendar in this post as well. All you have to do is book a slot with me and we can have a one-to-one chat. You can ask me as many questions as you want, and we can also do a little bit of coaching, and I can share some insight with you on what's keeping you stuck as well. So the program is going to start at the end of October, early November, and I'm opening up spaces to speak to me across the next 2 weeks. As I said, I will share the link with you here. So if this is something that really resonates with you and you want to see how things can be different for you, then I encourage you to book one of those slots with me. And that's it. I would love to hear any comments that you have about this. What's resonated with you? What do you want to take away? How are you going to push yourself past your boundaries, get out of your comfort zone and fight your normal? Share with me in the comment section and I will get back to you. Take care and God bless.